stand. You stand here. Okay.
I, Tim Burrell, do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified under the Constitution of the State of South Carolina to exercise the duties of the office of Mayor of the Town of Packlet, that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of South Carolina, and that I will faithfully serve the citizens of the Town of Packlet, so help me God.
I do.
Thank you.
Pretend to do that.
Pretend to do that. Thank you, Ted.
All right.
I, Chantal Reynolds, do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified under the Constitution of the State of South Carolina to exercise the duties of the office of councilperson for the Town of Packlet, that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of South Carolina, and that I will faithfully serve the citizens of the Town of Packlet, so help me God.
I do.
Thank you. I, Jamie Cooper, do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified under the Constitution of the State of South Carolina to exercise the duties to the office of councilperson for the Town of Packlet, that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of South Carolina, and that I will faithfully serve the citizens of the Town of Packlet. So help me God.
I do.
Put your right hand.
Okay.
Put your hand on heart. I, Starmika Wofford, do solemnly swear that I am duly qualified under the Constitution of the State of South Carolina to exercise the duties of the office of councilperson for the Town of Packlet, that I will, to the best of my ability, discharge the duties thereof, that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of South Carolina, and that I will faithfully serve the citizens of the Town of Packlet. So help me God.
I do.
Thank you very much. This list, citizens list. This is the citizens agenda. This is right. That's right. Can you read on right now?
Call this meeting to order. With the compliance of the Freedom of Information Act, the notice of this meeting was submitted by fax to Spartanburg Herald Journal, posted on the bulletin board in the lobby of the town hall and on the town website. We'll now have the invocation. Sir. Thank you, sir.
Let us pray. Father God, in the precious name of Jesus, Lord, we thank you for this privilege and opportunity, Father God, to come and be of service to you and be of service to this great community, Lord. I pray that you bless all the officials that have been sworn in. I pray, Father God, that you provide them with the resources to carry out the duties of this most sacred obligation so that you may receive the glory. In the mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good too. I thought you did.
Item number 5 is appointment of the mayor pro tempore.
I make recommendation that Thomas be appointed mayor pro tem.
I second.
Are there any other nominations?
Do you mind speaking up just a little bit louder so we can make sure that it's heard? Who was the motion for?
Thomas.
Thomas. If there's no other nominations, I guess could I have a motion that we close the nominations?
I motion that we close the nominations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's vote. All in favor of Thomas, please raise your right hand. Do we have any against? So be it. Congratulations. We're moving into what the presentation at this time. Item A, stormwater master plan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We have GMC who is coming to give a presentation on the stormwater master plan. We have Ed who's here who will come up to the podium, and I'll pull up the presentation right now and they can introduce themselves. If you just want to stay there.
Good to go? Oh, no. Well, good evening. Congratulations to the new council members. Thanks for having us. I'm Ed DiTomaso with Goodwin Mills in Kaywood. This is Chris Tollison, and we're here. We've been working on the master plan for a while now, about a year and a half, and just kind of wanted to get here, give you an update and present the results, and just field any questions that you might have that we can incorporate into the final document. So just the first slide here is just really kind of breaking down what we've been up to and what the agenda for tonight looks like in this presentation. So we've been out doing a lot of data gathering. You may have seen us and our crews out mapping the stormwater system. And we'll walk through some of our findings, recommendations, talk about some of the things that we did in addition to that to help with the stormwater model, and ultimately developing this plan that included a capital improvement element to help you address some of these stormwater issues. So on the data gathering side, we actually had people in the field going out mapping every stormwater structure and inspecting the condition of that structure. We did all the pipes, ditches, any structures that we were able to locate. As you may know, It's somewhat of a complicated system here. There's a lot of history with the system. Certain areas were difficult to access, so we did about as good of a job as we could, given some access issues and things like that, but all of that data was gathered and put together, and it's kind of folded into the model. So the next slide shows just basically what we were able to capture. So we were able to get and map and inspect over 300 structures, 6 miles of pipes, and 23 miles of ditches that we were able to visit and inspect as part of that process. So just some of these field observations that we've gone through, these are some pictures that we've taken around, and you can see, some of them are showing just sediment buildup at the inlets as you get in there. Others are showing some of the erosion that we've seen, and then for each of the lids and inlets that we were able to get to and pull up, you could see on the bottom right there how this pipe connectivity was mapped and traced as we went through the whole town. So, once we have that on the map, we're able to run and do some analysis with it. So this is just showing kind of some hotspot analysis that we did based on sediment. So when we had different issues where we noticed issues with sediment in some of the structures, that's what's called out here. So you can see the area that we're in right now had a higher concentration of sediment issues with the structures that we inspected versus some of the south and southwest areas of town. The people that live in the area are some of the best resources we have to help us understand the stormwater system. So as we were out in the field, anytime we discussed something with a resident or anytime people were willing to give us feedback, we would record those points and record the issues that they talked about so that we could incorporate that in. They're our best resource. They know what's happening in their neighborhood. So we had a bunch of different projects and people that came up to us and told us about the issues that they had. So we created this community authored map to fold into the plan. So we also developed a layer that shows all of the impervious area that's within the town. And impervious areas, we define it as anything that doesn't allow for the infiltration of water. So rooftops, driveways, parking, sidewalks, all of those things were digitized because all of that stuff contributes to the amount of runoff that's happening. And it was an important element that we needed to pull into the stormwater model, understanding how all that impervious area contributes to the drainage characteristics of the watershed. So we developed an impervious area layer for the entire town. Chris is going to walk you through basically what all that information that we gathered looks like and how it got folded in and pulled into our stormwater model.
So to model the city's stormwater system, the first thing we did was to subdivide the city into 7 drainage areas. For each of these drainage areas, we created a separate model of the primary pathways and inlets and primary inlets in those areas. So the map on the left shows those drainage areas, and the table on the right summarizes the size of each of those drainage areas. So models like this we refer to as hydrologic and hydraulic modeling. The hydrologic portion is the calculations we do to calculate the amount of runoff in that drainage area. The hydraulic modeling is we take those flows and we put them into the drainage system, to the open channels and the pipes, to see if they're sufficiently sized and how that water or the drainage system performs conveying that water. I'll run through this real quick. It's probably kind of boring, but the model we use, the software is called Stormwise. It uses a system of nodes and links, which I'll explain in just a second. We mapped or modeled the primary pathways, tried to incorporate known flooding hotspots. It was a one-dimensional model. The storm event we modeled is the 25-year, 24-hour event, which based on NOAA data for this area is about 6.52 inches. We used a peaking factor of 44, which is the peaking factor relates to the topography. If it's a flat area or a hilly area, 44 is appropriate for this area. We calculated the time of concentrations using the lag method, and we developed existing conditions and models, and then for the proposed improvements, proposed recommendations models. So the hydrologic modeling I was just talking about a second ago, we use the NRCS hydrologic method, which uses a curve number, which identifies or kind of summarizes the runoff potential. And the runoff potential for a drainage area is based on the type of land cover and hydrologic soil groups. We delineated land cover within each of the basins as what's listed there, either impervious, residential, wooded, grass, water, and commercial. And then we assigned curve numbers based on all those combinations of land cover and hydrologic soil groups. So Ed mentioned inlet access issues. I think this is something we wanted to kind of point out of things we encountered. The two pictures on the top are more, this is what you want to see. This is more traditional type of inlets, mainly because they have a manhole on top, which allows you access. When it has a manhole, you want a manhole on every inlet because that allows you to inspect it, like the picture shows on the top right, and look down at it and see, get basic information like the pipe sizes. You can measure down and get the pipe invert elevations, which are very important in modeling. But also you can see the condition, because sometimes these inlets, catch basins fill up with sediment and debris, which are impeding the flow. It was pretty common to find inlets like you see on the bottom where there's no access. So when we're trying to do the inventory, there's no way to get in there to see the pipe size and also in the condition, as well as work out the connectivity because you can't see the pipes. So I highly recommend whatever improvements the city makes in the future that you try to install these structures that have manholes so you can maintain them, you can clean them, and inspect them. So as far as the model, this is a layout of one of the models. This is the Lower Packlet River South Basin. Like I said, the Stormhouse model uses a system of links and nodes. The nodes, it might be hard to see, but are the yellow points. We typically put nodes at inlets, basically anywhere you want the model to tell you a water surface elevation. But that's typically at inlets or the upstream and downstream side of a culvert, so that you can, on the upstream side, the model can tell you for the 25-year event how that water surface elevation is going to be, and therefore will it overtop the road, and which would mean the culvert would be undersized. So the blue lines are, so the yellow points are the nodes where the water surface elevations are calculated. The nodes are collected by links, and there's two types of links. Channel links, which are shown in blue, and those are open channels like ditches. And then the orange links, if you can see them, represent closed conduits or pipes. And the model, like I said, for nodes calculates a water surface elevation, and within each of the links, it gives you a flow, like 25 CFS. So after we completed the model, well, another thing is for each of those nodes where we want to know a water surface elevation, we establish what we call a warning stage, which means a stage where we think if the water surface is exceeded, then it could cause a flooding problem. A good example would be, like I said a second ago, with the culverts. We would set that warning stage to be at the point where if water surface got to a certain elevation, it would overtop the road. So the warning stages tell us when there might be a problem. So for this particular watershed, the table on the left shows all the nodes where the model showed that for the 25-year event, the water surface elevation was exceeded. Sometimes, if you look at the numbers, they were slightly exceeded and sometimes pretty severe. And based on those results, we then would put together a list of recommended improvements. And we did that once again for all 7 of those watersheds. So This, now we're getting into the Pacolet Mills area, which is, as y'all all know, a very unique drainage system. The picture on the left shows what the channels typically are. They're a trapezoidal channel. The picture on the right shows one of the few instances where the sidewalk was broken and we could actually see inside. But most of these trapezoidal channels are covered by sidewalks they're inaccessible. The sketch on the right, which is hard to see, is what, after we inspected as many of them as we could, we kind of came up, for modeling purposes, what we thought the typical dimensions were so we could model those channels. Another important part of this, so this is areas where the sidewalk, those trapezoidal channels are underneath the sidewalk, and throughout areas where these type of channels existed, there's these L-shaped inlets, and that's how the water, gets down into the channel. They typically, the openings typically range from 3 or 4 inches in height to 6 or 8 inches in width. And I think what's important to say about that is modern stormwater inlets, like a single wing catch basin, is a good example, or a double wing, which is if you right across the river, north side of the river, right there at Limestone and whatever the street is to the left, there's on that corner, there's a nice big modern double wing catch basin, and the openings on those are 16 feet wide. So you have a much bigger opening. And typically the height is about 5.5 inches. So right now, these historic areas have very small inlets, and a lot of them are kind of blocked by vegetation. So that's just something to keep in mind. So this is the model we put together for the Pacolet Mills, and once again, well, the picture on the right shows, we started off with a delineated drainage area for the whole area, but then for the model we started subdividing it. So wherever we placed an inlet for the model, we would subdivide the overall basin so that we could create a model for as many inlets as possible. Now, because of the lack of access in the Pacolet Mills area, because like we just said, those inlets, I showed you the ones that are more traditional inlets but have no manhole access. Access was a huge problem in the Pacolet Mills area because besides that one that was broken, the sidewalk is broken, and you actually could see in it, those little L-shaped inlets that are so small, there's no way to get in there and see it. And so that's two problems. You can't inspect it, and it's almost guaranteed that over the years that no maintenance has been performed. So there's several problems with that. One, there's got to be tons of sediment and debris blocking them. And then because of development that's occurred over the years, there's also, we believe, a lot of them have been cut off. So, so our recommendations in this area is to use CCTV, where they can run cameras up the lines, up those trapezoidal channels, to try to figure out what's going on. Because it is possible if these channels under the sidewalk were cleaned out, that it could solve some of the problems. It probably would not pass the 25-year event, but it could. I think right now they're probably very, it's very hard for them to convey much flow because they have to be filled with sediment and debris, as well as some cases blocked off. So that's why we kind of looked and we talked with some companies that do this kind of work, and we think it would be extremely helpful to get cameras up in there and try to see exactly what's going on. Because I know these are so historic, I'm sure the city would like to to keep as many of them as possible, but to improve the drainage, some of them will have to be replaced.
So all of that information was collected and put together with the idea of producing this capital improvement matrix, essentially. And what we did with the matrix is we identified a bunch of factors, and we used 11 in this case, and we gave them weighted values to help score different project recommendations that we came up with across the town. So the highest tier, it gives a 10 times multiplier. So every project we have in the matrix is gonna get a 5, a 3, a 1, or a 0 for a score. But then we use these 11 factors to apply a multiplier to that for different criteria. So the highest tier looks at things like ownership. So it would get a high score if it was something that the town owns versus something where they actually have to acquire an easement or go after to get that access to that to be able to do that project. Another one is their structural flooding or houses flooding in this area. That would get a high score versus one where flooding wasn't really happening and the frequency of flooding is built into that. Another one is what we call the scale of community benefit. So is this on an arterial street where everybody's using it and it's flooding and it's really disrupting the way things work in the town? Or is this on a dead-end cul-de-sac where it's going to impact maybe just a few homes at the end? So that scaling. And then we also look at, for the high tier, is resurfacing. If the town already has plans or money from some other resource that they're going to go in and do some resurfacing on a street, that's a great time to address the stormwater problem. You're already disrupting traffic, you're already disrupting the road. Let's go ahead and address those stormwater problems there. So the middle tier, that's actually, they all say 10. So I apologize for that. The middle tier is a 5 times multiplier. Not everything gets a 10 times multiplier. That wouldn't allow us to compare it very well. And then the lowest tier gets a 1 time or a 3 time multiplier. This is all correct in the matrix that I'll show you in a second. But so 10, 5, 3. So street flooding, different than structural flooding because street flooding tends to recede after the storm. So it's still important to address places that habitually have street flooding, but we do want to recognize that it's not as important as the structural flooding that might take place. So is there funding allocation already in place? How easy of a construction project is it? What type of cost analysis is it? All that gets factored in. And then is it connected to any other drainage problems or projects that we've already identified? That would get a multiplier. So if we have identified this project downstream, but the one upstream could also be done at the same time, you know, that applies that type of multiplier for it. Then the lowest tier comes into play with compatibility with other town plans. So if you have a master plan that's already called out certain things that need to be done, we recognize that that's important, but it might not make it as high a priority as some of these other criteria. And then lastly, we looked at water quality benefits. So is this project and fixing this going to improve water quality in the rivers and streams? That's how the matrix was developed. And then the next slide here.
Can I ask a question,
Yeah,
please?
of course.
Patrick, go back one slide. When you say the roads that are owned by the town, how big of a difference will it make with the roads that flood that's owned by the state? Would that cause a problem when it comes to making the repairs? Oh, I'm sorry. Making the repairs?
It depends on if the town is responsible for maintenance of the streets or if it's something that you would have to go through the DOT for. That would come into play in that ownership one, where a state-owned route under this scenario would get a lower multiplier, but it might still get a lot of points because it hits on some of these other factors.
Okay.
So that's just one of 11 other factors that all get multiplied out to give a project a score.
The other thing to consider on there is if there are state roads, DOT roads, there standards of how they're repaired and how they're worked on, how they're paved is different than what the municipality and the county have. So when we're looking at repaving roads like Green Street, Pine Drive, Walker Street, those are state roads and they're not as easy to mill and pave as local roads are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so the next one, and we have this as, this is, the idea behind this is a living document that the city and the town rather has to use over the course of time, because right now we've identified a number of projects. If you went out and did all of those projects, you know, you don't wipe your hands and you're done, you know, and eventually other projects are gonna come up. So the idea is that this is just something that's gonna continue to evolve, you know, and priorities may change. A project that was high priority here may be outranked by another project that comes up just for various reasons. So we have this sheet here that, and this is just a snapshot of it, and it shows you all the other ones, but it shows you how that matrix is developed, and it defines the criteria that's within each of those items. And that may change too over time. As projects might get more expensive, you want to adjust the cost-benefit ratios. But this is how that's defined. And then the next one is going to be very hard to read because it's a confusing matrix. But all the scoring on the right are how those projects score. So these are different projects that we've identified and categorized. It describes the project. It puts it into a category. Is this something that needs to be studied more, or is it a maintenance need? And then on the right, you can see if you slide to the right, Patrick, sorry. These are all the different scores for each of those. It applies the multiplier as you go through, and then it gives you a numeric score at the end. We don't typically recommend that you use just the numeric scores as a way to prioritize it, because people can get hung up on well, this was a 200 and you did the 195 first. So what we like to do is we like to categorize those as to high priority, moderate, and low priority. So you can have a lot of projects in your high priority category, and it gives you the flexibility to kind of move around and do those projects as they come up. So that's just a snapshot, and like I said, this is something that we're still working with Patrick on to finalize, but it'll be in the report, and it'll be a tool that's available to help the town plan for these stormwater projects now and into the future. So the next slide, this is what we would do. This would accompany each of the projects that goes into the matrix. So if we said one of our recommendations was to go do maintenance and CCTV within the Pacolet Mills area, we've worked with different contractors on this before, where we've looked at this and gotten costs. You know, what does that look like? How do we price that out? So the way that they typically do it is economies of scale. If you're gonna go do a lot of linear footage of pipe, you'll get a better rate. So they gave us 2 rates for how, you know, we could look at doing that within the Pacolet Mills area. They would, based on what the person here is actually from, that we work with in this company is from Richmond, who also has trapezoidal drainage features, so he was familiar with this and kind of basically said that it really needs to be cleaned before they'd even be able to go through with a TV line. So just cleaning it, they gave us a cost for. But they'd also be able to run all of that concurrently as they were going through it at the same time. They'd be able to clean it and televise it. And this is just the pictures of some of their equipment. One of the other projects that we identified, you know, Royal Oak Drive, looking at a new inlet and culvert in that area. So we broke it down. We gave all the different costs that would go with that type of job so that you would actually have a pretty good ballpark under today's numbers of what that particular project would cost. So having that matrix to identify the projects and then backing it up with these different cost estimates to go with them, so you have a little bit of a tool to help plan and start to address some of these problems. So, like I said, we've been at this about 18 months here in the town. A lot of work, a lot of time exploring the uniqueness of the town, which has been great. And now, you know, we're kind of ready to try to polish this up and hand it over to the town to start working on it. But we do want to hear any feedback and address any questions that we can. And just some of the next steps are, you know, working at getting this finalized. We are going to work with Patrick. There are a few areas that we'd like to go back to, because when we were reviewing and QCing our data, there was a couple things that were missed. So we're going to go back and pick those up and then just continue to move forward with this. So thanks again for this opportunity and listening to our presentation, and we're here to answer any questions.
I have two.
Yes.
I'm glad to see it because two of the places that you have in here are in my district, and one that's not, that's Dogwood Circle and Woodland Circle, and I've been complaining about that spot for a long time. My question is, Patrick, will the town be responsible for making those repairs in my district where those are state roads? Or is that something you would have to work in collaboration with the state? And then, and while I got it on my mind, the Royal Oak, that area floods a lot. That's not in my district, but I drive by when it rains, and to see just for that little spot how costly that is, and that's just on a corner. So I just want to know when it's going to start.
Yeah, so the first part is the Dogwood Circle and Wildwood Circle that's out there. Wildwood is kind of, I really want to get addressed quickly. If you're familiar with, at the very end of Wildwood, the
Woodland.
drains. What's that?
Woodland.
Woodland, I'm sorry. Woodland, at the very end of Woodland, it all dumps into someone's house,
Right.
basically. And something needs to be done down there to create some type of culvert or some type of dry bed or something so that it can all be collected. And we've talked about this is, I think there's Woodland Court is a road that goes off there that was never paved.
Right.
That we could potentially use that right of way to get something built in there and then dump it into the creek bed behind her property that's there. But anything that's going to be on Wildwood and, am I saying that right? Why do I keep saying Woodland? Woodland and Dogwood are state roads, and so we would have to coordinate with DOT on getting stuff done out there. We can, and I'm just going to be frank, if we want to wait for DOT to work on it and get it fixed, we may be waiting a while.
I know.
And so I think it'd be much better for if we could find the funding through this, through Rural Infrastructure Authority or the South Carolina Department of Resilience, and maybe other types of bonds that are out there for us to go ahead and fix the problem on our own. We would most likely reach out to DOT and see if they can provide some funding towards that. We may be able to get what's called CTC funds, which are DOT state funds, to be able to assist in some of that cost. But it would probably, if you want it to happen in your lifetime, it's probably going to be something that we need to do and kind of push for it to be done.
Okay.
The second question that you had was Royal Oak Road. This is something that we were actually just talking about last night. Yes, it floods heavily. That's right there. There's, in the past, we've had a storm drain on 150 that we've had DOT clean out, but it doesn't really help much because if you're familiar with the, one thing that's great about Spartanburg County on their GIS maps, they provide contours. And so you can see that whole lot from 150 to Royal Oak to Jerusalem, that whole area is extremely flat.
Right.
There's not a lot of place for that water to go to. So even if we take it off of Royal Oak or in 150, it's still just going to be saturated right there. That we're going to have to work with an engineer to develop some type of plan to either put in some type of dry bed or some type of paved swell, or there's various different things on there to channel that water that's out there.
Because it floods on that street right behind it where they built that new house.
Yes.
And I was wondering, when they was building that house, did that person know it floods right there?
Right. One thing that actually came up, and I thought this was interesting, and it came up in the Planning Commission meeting on Monday, is that it was discussed when someone ends up buying a house somewhere, they can obviously look where the floodplains are, but there are other areas that are low-lying that may not be on the floodplain. And so the South Carolina Department of Revenue is actually mapping out those areas right now And we can provide that to someone who's looking to potentially build somewhere where it may not be in a floodplain, but it's in a low-lying area that traditionally floods. Additional funding source that they have for the South Carolina Department of Revenue is if there are properties like that that traditionally flood often and the property owner is willing to sell, they do have what's called voluntary buyout grants. So if there's somebody who owns a property and is tired of it being flooding and is tired of owning that property, it will be paid market value for that property. It's only done voluntary. It's only when the property owner is interested in selling that property. But then the town would end up using those funds to purchase it, and then we can end up developing something out there. Because as of right now, all that whole property is private, and we can't use public dollars on private property.
Gotcha. Okay.
I have a question for you, because I live on the Mill Hill, and I have many people that are having trouble, it's washing out retaining walls and all sorts of things. But when, for the CCTV camera stuff, were you all able to get over here? It's behind the Methodist church that's right down here. There's a long, big, open walkway. So from talking to people that have lived here and grown up here, they said they used to walk down through there as children. So I know that that's a main access point. I'm not 100% sure that that's not sewage, and that's my other question too. Are the drainage system and the sewage systems overlapping? Have you noticed any of that? Because it's very old over here. So, a lot of the times, stuff built back then, the sewage and the overflow could just all be going in the same area, and there is a pipe that comes down off of Green Street that nobody's quite 100% sure whether that's sewage or if that's runoff down there. So have you been able to make discoveries as to what's what?
For the most part, on the areas that we were able to access, we didn't know any combined storm sewer, situations. That's not to say that some of them don't exist, especially given the age of the infrastructure. It wasn't that uncommon back when it was first developed that they would have been combined.
Right.
But it wasn't noted anywhere in any of our inventory that we came across combined stuff. You didn't see any in any of the stuff that you looked at? I don't want to speak wrong on it, but
Did you all, do you know if anybody assessed that pipe that comes down? So when you're coming down Green Street, it actually you have to go over the guardrail and it comes out and spits all the stuff out towards the river. Or did anyone look at that area?
Off the top of my head, I
You're
don't
not sure?
know. I'm sure we looked at it, because if it was in the limits of the town, it would have been an area that we inspected, as long as we were able to get to it, via, if it wasn't fenced off or something like that, we should have been able to see it. I can get back to you on that, whether we saw it or not.
Do you all do like water testing? Like, would you test the water that comes out of there to see if that is becoming an issue where there might be overlapping of things like that?
Yeah, we do have the capability to do like in situ, like water testing, where a lot of the time it's obvious if we see something that doesn't look right. We have enough experience where we'll see it if it's flowing, and we would try to trace it to see where it's coming from, just because a lot of the time, a good example of that is technically you're not supposed to wash your cars and discharge it into the stormwater system. Mm-hmm. A lot of what you'll find is, that type of illicit discharge when you go around a community. But if there was some sort of other flow that looked suspicious, we would trace it and report it back.
Okay, yeah, those are the things I have questions about, because like I said, nobody's exactly sure what that pipe is. I've had some people say, we grew up drinking out of that pipe, and I thought, oh no, I hope not, but there is like a major access point I know over here that's like walkable, not that I would tell anybody to go walking down in there, but as far as sending cameras in, it might be a good access point. And with your budgeting for the camera stuff, if I'm assuming that a lot of that is going to have to be done on the Mill Hill because of concerns of sending anybody in or how old it is. If you're already going to be doing that stuff, are there other areas you've identified that also will need the cameras sent down into them? And since they get a lower, like, contracting price essentially, can we do it all at once, or are they going to want to break it down into different parts?
I think they can do it all at once. It just comes down to budget, number, but it's our understanding that kind of the priority area is this mill area. So we did focus a lot of the recommendations for that around this specific area. And we do have some equipment that we tried to use. We have pole cameras that you're able to get down in, and they illuminate up pipes and we did attempt to use those to try to figure out connectivity in certain areas where we could, which is why we believe there is a good bit of sediment in there, because it just didn't give us, usually you could see daylight, when you have ambient light from the structure downstream. So we did try different techniques to get as much of a read on where things were going as we could.
But it's old. It's old. Okay, thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
Well, appreciate it.
We appreciate your work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be moving into item 7, which is citizen comment. I just ask you to please be respectful and mindful of the time, 3 minutes. And our first speaker, Mr. Cleveland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Welcome to the real world in government, in the municipal government. We look forward to working with you all. Your previous council has been a great asset to the Spartanburg County Municipal Association. We look forward to working with you, Mr. Mayor, and to the new members of this council. We look forward to seeing you on January 29th at the town of Lyman at 6:30, where we will be entertained by our new elected Sheriff, Bill Ryan. Thank you, Patrick Kay, for the work that you do here in Packlet. It is a joy to know that we have some great people to work with, especially here in Packlet. I go as far back as Mayor Elaine O'Harris. Great woman, great leader, Josephine Macbeth, Miss Lil John, all of those pioneers. So you all have some big shoes to fill here. Mayor, we look forward to you being a strong man, letting us have it at our meeting. We appreciate you, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Ned Camby.
Ned Camby, 180 Harvey Street. About 2 or 3 things. I think it's time for us to, for y'all to look into subcontracting our trash pickup. It would be close to the same cost, plus they could pick up all the trash in a couple of days. We wouldn't have to take personnel away from the Public Works to fill in for someone that's out sick or anything like that. And there wouldn't be any payment or repair work for our trash truck. Our trash truck is very expensive to work on, and I would think that we would like to see that taken care of and no downtime. Another thing I'd like to bring up is I think we should have a statement, or y'all should have a statement that should be read by either the mayor or clerk before each meeting, stating that decorum will be observed, or those people interrupting the meeting will be asked to leave. This should be added to the statement that is being observed presently. Then I would, another thing I would like to see is that you should look at into a grant or some other monies to redo Highway 9 from Calvary Hill Baptist Church to Spartan Hydraulics, possibly all the way to Field Steakhouse, making it more pedestrian friendly, and adding more parking by just having one lane and with turning lanes and the other lane used for parking or something like that, or lamps, lamp posts and lights to make it more pleasing to the eye. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Willie Crocker.
I'm Willie Crocker. I live at 390 Glen Springs Highway, and I got me some notes here so I don't start chasing rabbits, because rabbit season's over now, so I'm trying to keep my thoughts together. I just want to say that, welcome all you new council members. You're in for a treat, and I can tell you that by experience. Anyway, I live there on 390 Glen Springs Highway. I live it there, I take pride there, I'm happy, joy, great place to live. And that's fixing to change according to the way y'all vote here tonight. My concern, there's a lot of concerns, but the one that's going to affect me more than anything is the guy said there'd be about 70 cars over there on Friday night and Saturday night. Well, they'll be over there to 10, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I know about these auction houses because me and my wife used to go to all of them all over the state. But anyway, I'm a light sleeper. I'm in my mid-80s. I go to bed early. My neighbor next door, I know when he gets up every morning, I heard his car door shut, car cranks up. And this parking lot's a lot closer than his car. And I can imagine, I'm not going to sleep none on Friday night and Saturday night until after the middle of the night. That's what bothers me more than anything. I know my property would be dropped value-wise. I done checked into that. It's going to drop more than the guy's going to pay for the building. But anyway, there's a lot more concerns I have, but the sleeping is my main one. It's going to change my way of living. And like I said, my value's going to drop. I don't care, because I'm not planning on selling and moving. I done got too old for that. I'm going to live there as long as the Lord lets me stay here. But as a council person, it's my thought as being a council person, you're on there, you're voted on there to help this town, to help the people of the town. Keep your people in mind. Do what's right for them. That's what I'm asking tonight. Vote your heart. Don't vote for me. I got friends up here. Don't vote for me as a friend. Vote for me what your heart tells you. Vote for me, or not vote for me, but vote as though you live in my house. What's going to be taking place if this goes through? Well, put yourself in our place. My next door neighbor, well, we're not young folks right there in that neighborhood. So we're not young folks. 2 houses up, I got grandkids live up there with small kids. But my concern is this. This has happened since the last meeting. Somebody has offered to buy the property from Mr. Verlaine at a profit. And he's going to tear the building down, just clean it up. To me, I'd be a winner for him because he's going to make a profit. Be a winner for the neighborhood because it's going to look clean. No noise. It should be a winner for y'all if all this could take place. So I'm saying again, vote what your heart tells you to vote. Thank you.
Actually, Mr. Crocker, a question for you. Mr. Crocker? Hi, Bill. I got a question for you. I know you were concerned with the time limit being late at night, them being there late at night, which is an obvious concern. I would assume they would have to fall under the same noise ordinance for the rest of residential Packlet, which is 10 o'clock?
I've checked and see what that is, but, and actually the proposal right now for it to be C2 is any business would have to shut down at 10 o'clock in the C2 zoning district.
So it wouldn't be, I mean, they would have to be, if you were talking the 30 to 40 cars they're talking, we would want it to be cleared out by that time. We don't want that noise. Absolutely, I agree with that.
But the guy told us last meeting he had around 70 cars there.
I actually looked at the nets. They figured 70 people, about 30 to 40 cars.
Okay.
Again, the difference between 40 cars and 70 cars is, you know, not huge. The time that they're out of there, I think, is more important than the amount of cars.
Okay.
All right.
Like I say, our auction ain't going to be over by 10 o'clock. I've done been too many of them. So,
Okay. Thank you.
I appreciate y'all.
Item number 8, approval of minutes from December 4th, 2025. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve minutes for December 4th, 2025.
I second.
Next, item 9, the department reports.
There was a motion and a second. We still need to vote on
Oh.
the minutes, though.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All in favor? Any against? Okay. The item 9, department reports.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The first item on there is the town administrator's report. You've got the report in there from the last few meetings. We've stopped reading through all of the items on here, and if you've got any questions, we can go into those in more detail. There were some items that I wanted to make sure that you were aware of, and I may need some response to, if you don't mind if I can go through some of those. Number 4 on there, last month it was reported that we would be sending some letters for, out for some condemnations. Let me see if I can pull that up on here. Give me a second. Last month, we talked about some of the condemnations and sending letters out to those property owners to fix those or be subject to a demolition on the property. And I want to let you know of the 5 letters that we ended up sending out last month. 2 of them have already contacted us. One on East Main Street has already demolished their property and is in the process of cleaning up that property and getting all of the debris hauled off. So great to see some progress out there. And we'll continue to work on those other 4 properties to get them handled as well. Number 7 on here, I just wanted you to be aware of. If some of you may not know this, but when Riverbend Aggregates came into the town and was annexed, there was a development agreement. And part of that development agreement is that they would pay the town a royalty based off of their the tonnage that comes into the ground. During that process, we knew that we'd be going through the comp plan, master plan, and have some projects that would be coming up, and wanted to be able to potentially cover those before they started actually bringing stuff out of the ground. So it was $100,000 that they would provide in the first year and $100,000 in the second year. That $100,000 check already came in. Based on our budget, took $40,000 of it went to the general fund, $60,000 of it went to the capital improvement fund. In addition to that, there was a $60,000 check that came in from them. Part of the development agreement that we had with them was we wanted to put in, council wanted them to put in a bike walking trail that went along the shoreline. And they've got about 2 miles of shoreline that they were going to put in the trail. And then we weren't going to have a problem working with Milliken, but there were a few properties between their property and Milliken that they were going to try to get easements on. If they were unable to get those easements or agreements with those property owners in a reasonable amount of time, that they were going to provide money to the town, and the town could try to figure out how they would work with that. So the town ended up getting $60,000 because they were unable to get those easements in a timely manner. And right now I've taken that $60,000 and put it into the restricted fund currently with the town. Item.
Can I ask you something about that, Patrick?
Yes.
So with this, it was the development agreement that bought that $60,000 back. Are we thinking we're not ever going to get easement on there? Is that going to probably stall the trail? Is it parts in between, or is it the end of it? Are we going to be able to work on that trail at all? What?
We'll still be able to work on that trail. So
Okay.
the 2-mile section that goes from one end of the property line to the other end of the property line, it's going to be starting very soon. It's much sooner than the other parts of the trail, because not only do they own that property, they agreed in the development agreement they would actually build that section of the trail. Okay. So there's nothing holding up that happening. We feel very comfortable that once the trail gets into Packlet Milliken property, we will also not have a problem with being able to use the area. We don't have any agreements right now with Packlet Milliken in terms of them building the trail, but I think we won't have any problems with having the property to be able to place the trail. It's just there's a connection point. These two properties don't abut each other. What may end up having to happen is the trail may have to go around their properties and then come back in. If the town is not able to, A, get an easement along their property on the river section on there, or they're not able to buy the property. I say the town is able to buy or get an easement, may have to go around. There's been other options of coming up with a completely different trail map, which I don't think would be a great idea, especially when you've got someone who says, we'll build 2-mile section of the trail.
Right.
And so now it's just a matter of trying to find other routes or going back to those property owners or trying to figure out what other options we have to be able to get that connection happening between those two large tracts there.
So as of right now, though, from here, from the town, we won't be able to connect to River Bend's part of the trail because of that, or it?
That's correct.
So we're either going to have to find a way around?
Correct.
Or, okay.
Yeah, if you pull up a GIS map on there, and I mean, I can pull it up now if you'd really like me to.
No,
but you can see where the Packlet Milliken property stops, and there are a few properties in between there. Packlet Milliken actually owns a big strip of that between those two, but there's still about 3 or 4 properties that need to all work together with the town to be able to get an easement and a trail there. And they weren't able to get that at the time.
Are they going to be able to connect, does River Bend, wasn't it going to go all the way up into like Clifton area? Will they be able to connect to that Clifton area from their property? Like, can they get from Clifton down to the River Bend? Like, is there going to be, I mean, it sounds almost like we're going to have this 2-mile trail that you just kind of, how do you get to it? Does that make sense?
Right. The proposal right now, keep in mind, this is all speculative, this is all conceptual. But the proposal is that it may go up a little bit further past their property, or it can go from their property across the river into the Packlet Wildlife Park area.
Like the preserve, the Packlet Preservation?
Packlet Preserve that's up there.
Okay.
And then go through that property, and eventually it may have to use various right-of-ways on Gold Mine Road to eventually get up into the PAL, Play, Advocate, Live Well, is already working on the connectivity between Clifton and Glendale.
Okay. Okay.
The next items that I wanted to bring up there was item 8. At the last council meeting, we discussed issues with the chipper. I just want to let you know we're still in the process of looking into that. We've gotten some quotes on replacement. We are currently working with a company out of Charlotte to either get, one option was to replace just the engine on there. One is to get a refurbished engine to go on there, or to repair it. And so we're currently working with that company right now on that. But I feel very confident, I think, between now and the next council meeting that you'll have all of that information to be able to make that determination of how to move forward.
I asked you for a cost analysis on renting once a month, or will that be in there?
Yes.
Okay.
The audit is nearly complete for FY 2025, and that should be in your February presentation. The company, a CPA firm, Love Bailey, will come out and give that presentation for y'all to evaluate. I wanted to let you be aware of this. There were 2 complaints recently from Council District 2 and Council District 6 as it relates to people in the community burning yard debris. As of right now, anybody can burn yard debris in the town of Packlet. There's no limit in terms of time. There's no limit in terms of smell, as long as it is yard debris and only yard debris. It can be burned. It has to be at least 50 feet from any building. When you're on much larger properties, not a big deal, but some of these smaller properties, it can become an issue, and there's nothing that we can do about that. You're going to have people on both sides of the fence in there that want to be able to burn, and people who don't want to smell it. But I wanted to bring this up to let you know there are complaints that are coming in. And if you want to email me at a later date and kind of give me some feedback, if you want to leave it the way it is, perfectly fine. If you would like for myself and Chief Brown with the fire department to get together and evaluate, you know, either if there's safety concerns on that, we can look into that as well.
I know you didn't go over 5 and 6 on there, but I question about with CC&I, so it's the Riverbend aggregates, it looks like they're getting ready to start doing some major building phases. I know that CC&I is limited to the hours that they're spending in our town. Are they going to, they're not, there's no limit, it's just.
Code enforcement is limited.
Okay.
Building permits is not.
Okay, so, and do they have the manpower? Like,
Yes.
Like he'll be prepared to be able to do that and cover anything else within the town that's still happening?
So you've got a building inspection person, and there's actually multiple people in CC&I that do building inspections. And there's one person that currently does code enforcement in the town of Packlet. So those are two completely separate group or people on there. But there's enough I would most likely say from CC&I's perspective, they would like to see the town of Packlet have a lot more building inspections here. So I don't see that being a concern at all.
Okay.
Next item I wanted to bring up to you was 13, currently going through the RFP for the Packlet Mills Post Office HVAC. You'll have that at the next council meeting. There are already bids that are coming in on that for you to consider. Number 14 is, I think, very important. It's something that, from talking to Ms. Kirby, this was something that the town used to have a long time ago, and I'd like to bring this back. It's committees, so that it's not just me that knows about the ins and outs and the day-to-day and all that stuff that's going on with a particular area of the community or of the aspect of what the town's working on, that we have at least one, possibly 2 or 3 council members who are getting a lot more in-depth knowledge on this. One specific area is to create a public safety committee. And in that would be myself, the police chief, and 1 up to 3 council members that would meet between council meetings and learn about what's going on in the police department, learn about what's coming up, what are laws that are coming from the federal level, from the state level, some trends that are happening, how Packlet is currently prepared, equipment needs, so various other things that come up. The same thing would be a public works group. There would be something to review planning, zoning, building permits, all that kind of things on there. If y'all are okay with this, I hope you are, but if you're okay with this, I'd like to flesh this out a little bit more in terms of what I don't want to have is we have 15 different committees. Try to see what makes sense in terms of combining things like an economic development and a tourism committee, a planning, building permit, building inspections, code enforcement, that would all be combined under one thing. And so if you'd like, I'd like to put together these different committees, and then at the next council meeting, you can determine who would sit on these committees. And it'd be like a work session. We kind of go into really detail on some stuff, and then you could report to council and the rest of the members here what's kind of going on. And it also is an opportunity when items do come up, it's not just me or the chief or one person bringing it up. You've got a background knowledge of this.
Is this something we can discuss at the retreat?
Ma'am?
Is it something we can discuss at the retreat?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can we just hit the highlights on these and move through this a little? Because we got a long agenda.
The 15, 16, and 17 are regarding leases. You've got a lease for the 2 bays at the Packlet Public Works Building that is expired already, and the town needs to let me know how you want to proceed on that. Item 16, the Armory, is finally coming up due on their lease, and I believe it's in May, it's in June or July will be coming up. The Opera House does not have a lease, never had a lease, and there is interest from two different groups of being able to use it. There's item 18 on here in terms of doing some plumbing work in front of Town Hall. There is information on here on item 19 and 20 and 21. And a lot of stuff on here, and it may just be better that, in the interest of time, that y'all look through these things. If you have any comments, send them to me, and maybe we'll discuss them in more detail at a future council meeting or at the council retreat. I do want to make sure that new council members, if you haven't already, please work with the town clerk to get your MASC profiles created, and also get your information updated for your SEI reports. And that's all I have for my report that I'm going to talk about.
All right. Item number 10, board, commission, committees. A, consider appointments to the planning commission which are resigned due to elective position. This is Ms. Lemons.
Do you want to give the chief a chance?
Oh, and I'm sorry, Mr. Police Chief, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Good evening to our council. Welcome to our new members. I appreciate your willingness to serve our town. I can promise you it's going to be the most rewarding thing you've ever done. All right, the main thing I would like to cover is our 2025 crime statistics. Mr. Kay is going to put all of those numbers up on the screen. I know it's going to be super difficult for our audience to be able to see those. To give you the basic general overview, we have a 21% reduction in overall crime for the calendar year of 2025.
Could you say that number again, please?
21% down. But that also follows our 2024 calendar year that was 60% down.
Great job.
I attribute that to the hard work of our officers and the dedication that they have to going out and doing what I expect them to do and what our community needs them to do. There is no other community in our region that has numbers like this, and that is because of how hard our officers work, how much you guys have supported them, and we just really need to keep that relationship going in the future to keep things like they are. One of the most significant aspects of that is we had a 70% reduction in burglary and breaking and entering over the 2024 year, which was a little bit of an anomaly, but we'll take it. And the most significant issue we had was an undercover operation that resulted in drug-related charges and the suspension of a town-issued business license. Council members, I gave you a worksheet that has some bullet points on it, and these are things that I do not want to discuss tonight. I would like for you to have those on your radar. Most of these topics are going to be things that I feel like we should discuss at the retreat, whenever that happens. I think you said in February that was going to happen. There's a couple of points I do want to make on what we have. Our headquarters building does have some issues that do need to be fixed immediately. We've kind of been kicking the can down the road. Some issues we discovered during Hurricane Helene that are significant structural issues with the building that have to be repaired. The other thing I'd like you to know about is the Spartanburg County Police Chiefs Association has had a resurgence, and all of the chiefs have signed mutual aid agreements between the agencies. What that could mean is you may see a Packlet police car in Duncan, or you may see a Landrum police car in Packlet. You may see us in other jurisdictions. You may see other jurisdictions here, because we are going to work together on something that they had previously that worked really well called impact teams, where if I have a problem, all of those other agencies are going to send me people to help, and let's take care of that problem, and we're going to give them the same help and send officers to them when they have a problem that needs to be addressed. One of the things we're doing is creating task forces for violent crime, gang awareness, and also a regional SWAT team. So if you see any of our officers involved in any of those things, you'll understand what's going on while we're doing it. But other than that, I have those bullet points, and those are mostly just things I would like you to be aware of. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me at any time. There may be some that we bring to you at the next council meeting, but most of these are topics that I would like for us to discuss and create a plan for whenever we have the retreat. Any kind of questions I can answer for anybody now?
I just have a quick question, Joe. So the police officers that we're going to see from the other areas, they're going to have the same rights as the Pacolet Police? They'll be able to pull people over?
They do.
That's something that we should let the public know about, so they're not wondering why they're getting pulled over by a Lyman police officer. That somehow should be conveyed to the public, that's...
Public awareness campaign.
Yeah, because you're going to have people that are going to fight that and tell you that they don't have jurisdiction.
Sure.
You will.
Great point. Any other questions I can answer?
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Item 10, Board Commission Committees. Consider appointment to the Planning Commission, which are resigning due to elected positions. And that would be Chantel Lemons.
I've got a interested party. I'd like to nominate Danielle Green. She showed interest.
I also have a nomination. I'd like to nominate Heath Henderson.
Excuse me, I did not.
It's Heath Henderson.
Heath Henderson.
He was first.
Typically, there's usually a motion and a second. So you made a motion for Danielle Green, and there was a...
And I second.
You seconded that? Okay. And then you made the motion for Heath Henderson, and then is there a second for that?
On this, is this the Board of Zoning Appeals? We have one vacancy?
This is the Planning Commission.
Or the Planning Commission? Okay, I'm
That's
sorry.
where I just came off of
Do you have any other nominations?
it. I make a motion, we close nominations.
I have a second. All in favor of Ms. Green? Danielle Green. Any against? And all for, I guess we need to...
No, it didn't get a
That's it,
second.
that's good, that's what I thought. Okay, item B, consider appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals, which are resigning due to elected position. That's Mr. Cooper's position on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Do I have a motion for nominees? Or do I have any nominations? Okay, all right.
We'll continue to work on it, Patrick.
Yeah,
That's all I could do.
Continue to work on that one. There's no
Yeah,
nomination.
we can put something out on our social media and see if we can find somebody who may be interested and get them to go to our website and fill out the form, and then we can provide that to council. But there's no urgency to do this. You still have 6 people on those council, on the Board of Zoning Appeals, so you still have quorum, you're still good to go with that.
Item C, consider an appointment to the Contractor Board of Appeals.
I do have an interested party, Josh Kenigsecker. I think I got his name right. If he hasn't submitted his application already, then he said he either would by the end of the week or first of the next week. But he's highly qualified, overqualified. I don't know if we can vote on that before the application comes in, or...
Personally, I'd rather see the nomination. One of the things that we want to make sure of is that do they have a contractor or any type of construction experience, and we need to verify they live in Spartanburg County. That would be the only thing.
Well, he lives on Sutton Road, about a mile from here. I know that. he is not a licensed contractor, but he does have actual formal training in civil design or civil engineering. So
Yeah, you do not need to be a licensed contractor, you just
Right.
have to have contractor construction experience or
Right.
design experience.
right.
What was the name?
Kennick Secker, Joshua Kennick Secker. I can give you the spelling, but 90% sure on the pronunciation.
Spell it.
Do you need the spelling right now? Do you need this? Okay, give me.
No, I can figure it out.
I can give it to you later. I have to look it up.
Are there any other nominations? Do we need to wait till he submits?
You are council and you can do whatever you'd like to do. I'm just recommending that you take, I just want to verify some of the construction experience. I even call up some of their references to verify they've got construction experience, but if
I suggest you wait till you get the
Yeah.
application.
That's verified.
Yeah.
Item 11, unfinished business. A, consider first reading of RZ 2025-02, a request for rezoning 3-33-00.03.01 from multi-family residence district to C2 neighborhood commercial district. And this was table 12-425. My question is, if it's been tabled, do we have to remove it off the table?
you can
Or
go,
we can discuss it?
it's got to be discussed at either the current meeting that it was tabled or at the next council meeting. And so I just went ahead and put it back on the agenda already. It would need a motion and a second, then discussion on there. If you give me a couple seconds, I'm going to try to find this real quick. Here it is. So if you remember, this was a request to rezone a property on Glen Springs Road. It went before the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission voted unanimously to deny it. The Planning Commission makes recommendations, and so it still comes to you for a motion. It has to go through two readings, two positive readings on there. At the last council meeting, there were council members who wanted to table it to seek additional information before voting on it. So it was tabled, and now it's brought back up at this meeting. And so, but it's the request on here is from R&R Construction, specifically Mr. Ravan, to rezone a property 391 Glen Springs Road from residential to C2 commercial, with the intent at the time when I spoke to him to sell it to someone who wanted to put in a auction house at that property. Is there any questions that y'all have on that before y'all get into your side of discussion?
We're talking about the building that's already a commercial building on residential property.
Yes.
And it's also the boarded up building.
So it's a little bit of the background history on there, and Tony can correct me if I'm incorrect on this. The town received some grant funding to acquire the property, and then additional grant funding to build the structure that's on there. It was used as a doctor's facility, pharmacy, and other medical-related uses, a dentist. At some point, the building became vacant. The town sold it to Mr. Ravan, and it has sat vacant for probably 10, 15? 15 years it's sat vacant. It's recently had some issues with vandalism and crime. We've had some youth who broke into the building, broke windows, broke some stuff on the interior, which is now why it's all boarded up. And it was originally, back with the old zoning ordinance, it was set up as a neighborhood edge, I believe, and then it allowed for some types of commercial.
So that, let's just clarify, neighborhood edge allowed for both residential as well as commercial, right?
It enabled some types of commercial and some types of
Right,
residential.
so it
It
wasn't a commercial property, it was.
It was a transitional property.
Yes.
And while the town was going through the zoning ordinance change, Mr. Ravan requested that it get, he wanted to be able to put in multifamily housing at the time, and to be able to do that, it would be zoned MFR. And that was brought up to the steering committee who was reviewing the zoning ordinance on there. And it was decided to go ahead and just roll that in there and vote it on since the town was already going through that process. At this point, the property owner would like to do something different. And so he wanted to have the property changed to something else. So any other questions before?
What was it sold as when the town sold it?
It was sold as that I believe it was sold as the neighborhood edge, because back in 2009 is when the old zoning ordinance was originally created, and it was sold probably about 10 or 15 years ago. It may have been about the same time. It may have been sold before the new zoning ordinance, because the zoning ordinance would have been 2009, and 15 years ago would have been... No, I'm sorry, my math is wrong on that. It would have been after the new zoning ordinance was put into effect.
So are we ready to start a discussion on that? Because I've sat on that planning commission, and I would like to tell you the process that happened there. We had a future zoning map that was placed up there, and we had it as future zoning set to be R20 because the surrounding area was already zoned as R20. It was a transitional zone, and as Patrick stated, that would have allowed both commercial as well as residential. When the property was brought before us, it was first of all, the map changed, so we had to ask what that change was, why that change was made. And it was explained that the owner wanted to do multifamily on that lot. There's actually two parcels. The Planning Commission decided to remove the back parcel because we didn't want intense, dense growth right there in the middle of what's already a surrounding neighborhood. But we did leave the front lot, which was the office, as the multifamily. There's a very lengthy discussion. If you go back and look at the meeting, it's our March meeting that we did, and we were trying to get very specific information about what exactly was going to go on there. And we were told 4 townhomes. We were told that sewage would not allow for any more of that than the 4 homes, because we were, again, the potential there could have been 20. So we were really trying to dig in and find out what could go there. And we were told that's what the property owner wanted. The issue I have with that is that at that same time, when that was put as multifamily, had the Planning Commission been made aware that there was a potential that they wanted to do commercial there too, we would have been open and willing to talk about that. But we were only given a drawing for the townhomes, and that is the only information we have. We never actually got to speak with Mr. Ravan. All of our information was secondhand from others, and that we solidified that into the zoning ordinance and the future land map use. So the issue becomes that this is the second time that we had a future land mass use turn around, and right after we passed, asked to be rezoned to something else. And we can't there's zoning and laws and restrictions. You can't spot zone properties and stuff, and I think we're walking a fine line with this one. I really would think that we would ask somebody that's further educated in zoning laws whether it would be advisable to go ahead and rezone this after we already did what the property owner technically was asking at that time. Now we're going to do it again. That creates a show of favoritism. It's also, you know, the man stood here and told us all he's really good friends with our mayor and stuff. We have to be careful in those kind of situations. And I think at this point, we're getting into something that we need to be more thoughtful about before we just say yes.
I would think that whether we rezone it or not, we do not want a boarded up building. If it's something that the owner's going to have to do something with that building, or we can't have boarded up buildings on a main, you know. Do you agree?
I agree, but we never said that, you know, we were told that development there was going to be multifamily. We were given a plan for it. We were told this is what they wanted, this is what they wanted. I mean, like I said, there's fine lines there. I've had zoning training. I really think we need to tread carefully
Will you be voting on this issue?
on this issue tonight. Yes, I will.
At all? Oh, you will?
I will. I contacted the MASC attorney to make sure that I was within my rights to vote, as they said there's nothing that they could
Okay.
find in the laws
So-
to say I couldn't vote on it.
So business doesn't operate in a straight line. You know, people have plans fall through, buyers back out, people go bankrupt. There's 1,000 different reasons something might not work out. I think we need to be sensitive to that and understand, you know, people are trying to open a business, which is extremely difficult in a thriving market and alarmingly difficult in a market like Packlet that's a little stagnant, to say the least. So we need to work with people. I mean, people talk about small town feel, and, you know, then we have people complaining, oh, he knows the mayor. It's a small town. Everyone knows the mayor. Everyone knows everybody. That's not a reason to try to keep someone from going into business. There's, you know, we have the power to actually make real change. For me, it's really, the biggest thing is safety. You know, our chief got up here and talked about these stats and how they're moving in the right direction. You know, this has been an area that's attracted crime. That to me is like the cherry on top. If we could solve multiple problems at once. You know, I know there are people that don't, you know, want things opening near them or whatever. There's some legitimate concerns. However, I'm huge on you know, property rights too. Individuals should be able to do what they want with their property within certain guidelines, and this is not like, this is a commercial building. It's not way
Yeah,
outside
but
those
he asked for
guidelines.
it to be residential.
Right, and that fell
commercial
through.
sells for higher, we have to take that into consideration too. He's now wanting to sell it, so he's going to profit more from selling it as a commercial
I hope he
than a
does. I
residential.
hope he makes $1 million.
And I'm not saying I don't want people to do that, but then we are allowing it. We are the ones saying, it's okay, we'll allow this. We will
Allow
allow whoever
profiting?
comes up here, but then disregard what people in the area have said. Nobody else came up and spoke and said that they wanted this to go in there. We only heard people say they did not want this to go in there, and then on
Well,
top of
you
that,
don't-
the conflict of interest
You don't
of
want
the
him to
fact that
profit?
we are now allowing somebody to sell for a higher price, and we are the ones essentially saying, okay, we'll just keep flip-flopping on this zoning for you.
You don't, hold on, you don't want him to sell, you don't want him to make money on it?
I didn't say that. That's not what I said at all.
Oh, I
I'm
thought
not- I'm saying that as a town and being responsible as the council members, we cannot be giving the show of favoritism in that sense.
How is it favoritism?
Because we have been doing the thing that the man has asked us over. It was asked for that to be multifamily.
But I would do this for anybody.
All right. That's in my district, and I've had probably 12, 14 people reach out to me that are against it. I've heard one that's for it, and that's the property owner. Also, we had much time spent with the Planning Commission on getting the zoning set up the way the property owner wanted originally. Then he changes his mind for whatever reason. Whatever reason. I have no problem with how much money he makes off of it, which way he decides to go. But he approached the town and had it zoned one way, now he wants it zoned again. And I think that we're playing with fire if we go changing it. I think we owe respect to our commission that has reviewed this already and made their recommendations. I want to make a motion that we deny this zoning appeal.
I second that.
All in favor? All against?
Well, let's do that again. All in favor?
All in favor of what?
Denial of
Denying this.
rezoning.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, who it is. So it was, who is in favor of denying is Council District 1, Council District 2, Council District 6, and the mayor. And I'm assuming the other 3 are against the, is that correct? Okay. So at that point, it fails and does not come back for a second reading at this time.
Item B, discussion regarding short-term rentals.
The primary reason this was on the agenda again was if you look through the minutes on there, it was recommended, I believe, from the attorney to either send this thing back to the Planning Commission, or I believe the attorney's words were put together a committee to discuss what you would like to see, craft something, have myself put something together, have the attorney review it, and bring it up for, I believe it'd go through the Planning Commission because it'd be a use, and then it would come to council. So I need to be directed, I guess, from that, and I need to know if there's any council members who want to serve on that, and I need to know if you want to send this just to the Planning Commission to craft, or if you want to have a steering group or a subcommittee of some council members only or I just need some feedback on how to move forward with this.
I looked up what the county does, and as far as short-term rentals there, they allow it downtown, commercial, mixed use, in areas zoned for hotels and motels. They prohibit it in residential zone. So that's the county's definition of where short-term rentals are allowed right now.
Okay.
And that is a place to start, I would think.
Okay.
Do we know yet if the state, I know when we were discussing the short-term rentals, when we were building the zoning ordinance, that Jeff had said that they were still working on getting like regulations for them. Do you know if the state has put up anything in which we can regulate them yet?
So the state has not weighed in on this. It's a very big political football. On one side, you've got people who are about property rights and being able to do what they want to with their properties. And then on the other side, you have the hotel motel industry, who is very much against this, the lodging industry. So the state has not weighed in on this for or against, and so they've left it up to currently the individual municipalities or counties to deal with. It's some counties and cities in the state have already brought this up and have already started allowing it in various areas. Since it's not currently in your zoning ordinance as an allowed use, it would need to be added. And so I need to know from the council's perspective, the majority of council's perspective, if you'd like to move forward with this, and to kind of get some idea of what we're looking at. And I appreciate your comments to look at the county on there. I can put together some options for you to consider on there. And then it would still need to go through the planning commission before it come back to council. So.
Will the regulations on it, would it be written into the zoning ordinance, or will we need to adjust anything in our code? Like, will we be able to regulate it? When I'm saying regulations, I'm meaning things such as, like, if it gets out of hand and it turns
Yes.
into a party house and things like that. That was stuff we had discussed.
Absolutely.
Does that need to be written out into the zoning ordinance, or will we need to amend the municipal code to accommodate those kind of things?
I will discuss that with our attorney as well as the municipal association to get some feedback on there, but absolutely. Regulating how it's done, how it's allowed, it would also be set up as a business license. And so if they're out of line and it's not working out, there are sections in the business license that they can be removed from business license and not allowed to operate again. So council is welcome to put any type of language you want to on there, and then I'll review it with the attorneys to verify that all that stuff is legit.
I make a motion that we send this to the Planning Commission for them to review, since they had already had somewhat of a discussion on this before.
I'll second.
Item number C,
We need to,
we got to vote. We got a second? Yeah, we got to vote on that, and we got a second.
Something we need to vote.
you know, a first and a second on there. If the majority of y'all are in favor of sending this to the planning commission, then we'll do that, and between when that time, I'll start putting together some language and some suggestions on there, and then the planning commission can discuss that a little bit further.
You need a
Should have been
vote
on
on
their
it?
Monday agenda. This should have been on their Monday agenda, because we brought it up a month ago. Let's get it rolling.
All in favor to send it to the planning commission? Against?
Is that all of you?
All in favor of sending it to the planning commission?
Okay.
Yeah. Item C, discuss regarding the contract with CCNI, the code enforcement and building inspections.
The item on here was requested by Mr. Williams, and I've got a copy of the original contract that was done with CCNI. Based on some comments that I received, I presented you a proposal of a resolution that can be updated to update their policies and procedures they currently have. I also received an email today from the owner, president of CCNI, and I printed off a copy, and you'll all have that in front of you. Unfortunately, we just have a black and white printer, and so you may have to look a little bit deeper to see what his comments are. The proposed language on there is in there, but his comments come directly after the proposed language that's in there.
You said that's comments from Mr. Willis?
Comments from
CCNI?
Mr. Willis.
Okay. Because, you and I had talked about, I had questions too about that, because of course, I think the language up here covered it. I mean, we can't be asking him to do anything that would be, putting him at risk of losing his license. And he might have things that are mandatory reporting. So did he say anything more to you about that? Like, is he covered under this? That we're not asking him to just look the other way. where he would have to report. That's something that is concerning. I don't think, like I said, I think this language in here would allow that if it is something he's mandatory to report, then he's not being bound in any kind of way by that, right?
Some of his comments, and I can pull up a copy of those comments, give me just a second, but one of the things he did say is it sounds like they're going to do the best they can in terms of making sure that to not miss anything on there. One thing he did state on there was if someone fails, if they fail with more than 5 items on there, then they just stop the whole inspection and say that you're not ready at this point. It sounds like that it sounded like if there were more than 5 things that were on there, then it was more of a bigger deal that they kind of really just need to call back for the whole thing. That was, it doesn't sound like they often have someone who fails 5 or more things at a time, unless they completely have no idea how to build at all, is kind of what I'd gotten from there. The other comment on there was, his comment on there is, he said, if he sees something, no matter where it is in the process, because of his license, he can't not say something about it. He has to, by law, bring something up. And his comments to me was, it sounded like it was, from his comments, it was, as the property owner who's having the work done, do you want everything, addressed? Or do you not want to have things addressed because it may upset the contractor and may force them to come back and have to do another re-inspection?
The intent of this is to protect homeowners, not contractors. There's a lot of things that the homeowners handle. No homeowner wants the contractor doing shoddy work. That's completely outside the purpose of this. Additionally, number 2 on this addendum does not contain the language that I asked you to put in there. So we'll need to edit that. I requested that a quote of the code be included. That's very important because a lot of homeowners will just look at it and see a citation, and they're not going to take the time, nor should they have to go do a bunch of research and find that and try to interpret it. But if the inspector is confident enough that he knows the code, he can just quote that section. So they don't have to read 1,000 pages trying to find. So that needs to be added. Not just a citation, a quote of the code.
Okay. I thought it would just, because the citation on there they could use that citation to go and find that on his website where he's got a copy of that on there, as opposed to printing out a couple paragraphs or whatever, however long that particular section is.
Well,
so you want the entire thing on there and not
No, I want it as brief as possible to get right to the point. This is the specific spot where you failed, and here's the actual language. The problem is they cite a lot of things, and then you end up having to read paragraphs, and you're not sure really where in that paragraph something went wrong, unless they want to get into a lot of detail, and the more detail, the better, if they're stopping your project. I want to see a quote, because I know from personal experience where they cited something and claimed something, and then it took me and other people several days to find out it was actually incorrect. But if I had the quote, we would have known right on the spot.
Well, and also to your point of the comments that, like I said, this is the first I've seen the comment, so I've been only basing it off of what I read from the initial, but I cannot access that code. Have you been able to see their code online? Because I went through their website and everything.
It really depends what link you follow, and some of there's gatekeeping, and some of it, you gotta have a subscription. That also goes back to why a quote is important. You can find it, it takes some time. But if they know the code the way they claim they do, then just type it out, because they have access. Not all homeowners can find that.
Yeah, and that's the other concern too, is that it seems like we have to go through CC&I to find the code. We don't have any kind of.
No, International Building Code is generally public. It's some people try to charge you for it to make it easier to find stuff, but if you dig deep enough, you can find the IBC for free out there.
You have been able to find, because I have
Yeah.
gone on the LLR site, I've gone on the ICC site,
A
I
lot
have
of the
tried,
sites won't let you get into it, which
because they want you to pay for it,
goes
yes.
back to why a quote is necessary.
Yes.
And it makes sense. If they're being cited for something, they shouldn't have to go
Yes.
hunt for it. It should be what's being cited.
Additionally,
It only makes sense.
they've quoted commentary, which is sometimes added to the bottom of code and is confusing to someone that wouldn't know. Commentary is not code. And they have tried to use the commentary of other experts and enforce that as code. I really don't like the statement where it says, cite the applicable section of the IBC or other adopted code. What other adopted code do we have? Do we have any other adopted
So,
code?
and that's one thing, it would be, I have to verify that on there. See, I don't know if it's the IBC or specifically what the state of South Carolina has passed, because what you have agreed to in your zoning, in your municipal code is that you adopt the South Carolina building
Yeah,
code.
let's mention that instead of just other adopted code. So we can be very specific that they're not using whatever's not code and not legally adopted by the state. Because I have personally run into that with them.
Would anyone on council be opposed to us attempting to get a codified version of the South Carolina adopted codes? You can purchase them online. They would be accessible here. I would feel that that would help, like our Construction Board of Appeals, if they needed to independently access the code without having to go through CC&I, because again, you're kind of creating a conflict of interest for the separate board that's supposed to be neutral to have to ask the inspector. Like, I think the town should have its own separation.
I assume we have that available to our Construction Board of Appeals. They would have to interpret code in order to make a judgment, right? That's provided to them, or is that on hand?
Do we have the South Carolina building code?
I know they haven't met and this issue hasn't come up yet, but I assume we would have the code, right?
We have not purchased anything for that because does council want the town to purchase a hand paper copy of that?
Well, do we have digital access?
It's my understanding, I have not gone and looked at it myself, but it's my understanding that CC&I has a copy of this on their website.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's a conflict. I think that the Construction Board of Appeals shouldn't have to go to the person that's giving the citation because they are the independent party that's supposed to interpret it. And they shouldn't have to ask permission to see the stuff that we're having trouble seeing, obviously. That's why this is.
Well, they're not gonna have to pay for it. I don't know what link, obviously, in a hearing at a meeting, they wouldn't be paying CC&I to get the information.
Patrick,
There's-
are you
I'm sure there's a
saying
link
that
out
it's
there.
there on CC&I's website?
You cannot.
To access?
I tried to. You cannot.
There's been times I tried to click through the links and came to a gateway where you had to pay, and then there was other times when I managed to get through. I don't know if I took a different route, but the first try, I had to pay to see, and then I had to go find another, and I don't know if they've changed that. It looks like maybe they changed it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we can, that's not part of this addendum. If we change this language in this addendum, and as long as our Construction Board of Appeals, when the time comes, has access, has a copy or whatever, then I think we'd be covered.
Because I feel as though we shouldn't have to pay for it if we're already contracting with CC&I and they can make it available.
Right.
I think that there shouldn't be a gatekeeper. That's my opinion on it. There should be no gatekeeper to that code. We should have access to it. It should be quick, easy, simple for somebody to look at that.
Right.
Property owner, anybody.
CC&I is not the only one with the code. It's out there. It's just not easy to find. It's out there and it's free somewhere. If they just simply quote the clauses that they're basing their fail on, then it's not an issue.
So let's move to make the change that you have suggested, and also about the link, I guess to find a better way to get to where we're going, to find this information that must be so mysterious to find.
I'm on their site right now.
It shouldn't be mysterious.
Do you want to edit this, Patrick, for next meeting? Or
Yeah.
can we just make the edits now and pass it? I'm not in a huge rush, but, it's like 2 sentences that need to be edited.
Just so I understand exactly what you would like to have changed, can you make sure to email me what I have wrong on here that you'd like to have changed? It's the,
I will email you again.
what's that?
I will email you again.
Thank you.
Make a motion, we table this pending the edits necessary that's been requested.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Moving along, new business. Select a date for the 2026 council retreat and goal-setting session.
Based on the, in the past, we've used the Municipal Association of South Carolina to facilitate this, and Naomi Reed has been the one who facilitates this. She's no longer with the Municipal Association, and y'all have met Rob Wolf. We looked at a couple dates of the location we were going to use. February 21st, if that works for y'all, that works for him, that works for the location we were going to do it. But before, I was looking at a couple dates, now I'm just looking at one right now.
That works for me.
It works for me.
November 21st works for all of you?
February.
February 1st, February 1st.
21st.
February 21st. What keep saying? February 21st, Saturday, 10 a.m. I will send you out more information as long as everyone, I'm going to catch everybody's eye. I'm hearing yes, 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 yes,
Is this
yes,
at the
yes.
Montgomery building again?
Did you say that's a Saturday?
It's a Saturday.
Okay, just let me check one thing because they have the 21st?
That's correct.
Yeah, yes, that works.
Item
you.
B, consider a resolution to shield funds in department budget.
Yes, we have finally come to the end of the world in which Ms. Kirby will be finally retiring and leaving us. And I'd like for us to prepare for that as much as possible and bring somebody in. So right now, the plan has been over the last year is that Ms. Jennifer Gilbert, who's the assistant town clerk, has been training, taking extensive classes, and is planning to take over this position once Ms. Kirby leaves. But to do that, we need to find somebody who's going to do her job as well. And I'd like your permission to shift some dollars in the current budget to be able to cover that cost so that we can go ahead and hire that person full-time to be the assistant town clerk. That's where Ms. Gilbert can train her to do her job. And during that time, Ms. Gilbert will be learning more from Ms. Kirby. And so the plan is July 1st, if not sooner, Ms. Gilbert will be sworn in as the clerk. Because of the fact that it is not within the department, it's from another department coming in, it requires your approval. Yes, ma'am. You look like you had a question.
I'm gonna make a motion that we make a resolution to shift funds.
All right, I got one question first off. I see where this is, some of these funds are going to be shifted from the police department to the town administrator or?
With the administration,
clerk?
yes.
Is this going to cause any problems with the police department?
No, what ended up happening was that the police department had some did not have all their staffing for the beginning of the year.
I understand.
So they had some additional dollars that were on there. So,
So
no,
these
this,
funds are in excess and it's
That is
not going to
correct.
cause any hardship to the police department.
that is correct.
There's quite a few things wrong with the police department we pay for, and I apologize, Patrick, we didn't really discuss this. I don't agree with any money coming out of the police department budget. There's been past councils that have told me over and over, our budget is our budget, and shifting it to achieve a goal in the admin office doesn't align with what I need for my agency, and it's my job to represent my agency. I think money can be found elsewhere, or that can wait. Yeah, there is a surplus because we didn't have people working, but I have a $14,000 bill to fix a crack in the floor of the police department because there's black mold growing, okay? That needs to be handled before we have another person learning how to take the clerk's job, personally, in my opinion. I just found out that we're having problems writing tickets and doing rec reports because we have a new system that we're mandated to use by the state, and we don't have good enough Wi-Fi signal in our cars right now to be able to do that on the Mill Hill side of town. So every one of those cars are going to have to be refurbished with a system that's a couple of $1,000s each. So pulling money out of my budget because we had some staffing issues earlier in the year doesn't fit with where the police department actually goes. There's stuff that pops up all the time that we're not expecting. I really need my budget to stay my budget all the time, every year, because I always have these surprises. I never know. When we do have people that we're missing on staff, up to this point, I cover those hours. I work 60, 80, 120-hour weeks. I'm not going to keep doing that. We're going to have to pay people overtime or get deputies in here to work those shifts if we're short-staffed. So we have that surplus because I've worked 200 hours a month. So it feels really disrespectful to try to pull it out of my budget to pay for something that does not have to happen right now. Would it make the transition smoother? Yes, it would. And I'm sorry if that causes any issues at Town Hall, but it isn't my responsibility to take care of Town Hall. It's my responsibility to take care of the police department and most specifically the officers that work there. And I don't agree with that money getting shifted that way. We didn't have a lot of discussion about this. He just assumed I would be okay with it, but I'm not okay with it.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
So Patrick, is there anywhere else the money can be shifted from?
Not that I'm aware of, to be able to cover this position. No, this is news to me because I'm the one who writes the budget for the entire town. And based on where we are right now, we do have the funding to be able to cover this. So I disagree with Mr. Hawes on that. My job is budgets, so.
Are we not about to get like our audit about our budget? Like, would that not make sense to kind of let that audit go through and see what's what before we start looking at all of this budget type?
The issue, your audit is going to be through FY25, so that's going to go through June 30th of 2025. You've got, at this point, 7 months, and if you wait until next month, you'll get into possibly closer to 8 months of information that is not going to be covered in that audit.
Okay.
Anybody gonna second my motion?
That's a tough one.
If need be, if there are items that need to be addressed, the town does have a capital budget to be able to address these. As of right now, the town of Packlet has approximately almost $160,000 of capital funds to be able to use for capital projects that are mentioned that he had. In addition, there's currently about almost 800, there's about $1 million that's currently sitting in your restricted fund. Your restricted fund is made up of the 2 grants that the town received for the cloth room, as well as the purchase of the cloth room. As mentioned before, what we're working towards the direction of is about $350,000 of that being forgiven. So that $350,000, as long as that gets approved through the state with Mr. Moss, those would be $350,000 of additional capital funds that you could use once that is coming up.
All right. Based on what's on the agenda for the new business,
Hold up, I made a motion. Patrick, I'm gonna rescind my motion and ask that a discussion be had so there's more clarity. I don't want any tension. And if we make a decision, I want it to be the right one without any problems, you understand? Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think I fully understand. I'd like more time to look at it as well because, I mean, we're not adding a position. And it's someone's just moving from one position to another
So as of
position.
right now, you've got a town clerk and assistant town clerk.
Right, and that those are both filled currently.
That's what you currently have on there. And so, starting July 1st, the assistant town clerk is going to be your town clerk, and then your assistant town clerk would then be replaced. The problem that ends up happening is, right now, I need for the assistant town clerk to train before this person is gone.
Okay.
And I need for that person to learn as much information as possible while this person is gone. They can't do that if they're also doing their job as well. The town of Pacolet does its best to squeeze every last dollar we can, and both those employees don't have the time to be able to take on new responsibilities and learn new stuff and also do their job, that's why the idea was to bring somebody else in. Now, this is only covering the cost of 5 months of that person, because after 5 months, then we will be back to just 2 people again. This is just going to be for the next 5 months.
The surplus that the police department has, are they allowed to use that money at their discretion?
No. No, it was under the perception years ago that once the budget for the police department is given, that it's used for however they want. No, there's still a budget.
I don't think we should penalize a department that we just gave accolades for the job they're doing in Pacolet.
No, if there are any changes, I'm allowed to make changes within the department as the purchasing purchasing person, but no, it's currently not set up so that the chief can take money from one area and put it towards something else.
Patrick, briefly, because we've been here a long time, but what are give me some bullet points of our assistant town clerk's responsibilities, just her biggest couple of things she does. I know she does a lot of things.
She is the clerk of court, huge responsibility, especially in the process of changing her to a new system.
Okay.
Events, big responsibility on there. And she'd kill me right now because I don't know. I'd have to look in terms of her job responsibilities. I've tried to add additional things onto what she is currently doing, and she's completely slammed. She does multiple jobs.
Do you think it takes 5 months to get someone up to speed on that job?
yes.
Yes. For the clerk, right? Yes, that's going to probably take even longer. They're still not going to be ready.
Which part is the most heavy training? The clerk of court segment?
So
That would be one of the hard ones, because it's that new system.
Is that the biggest thing?
yes, the biggest issue that we're running into is Ms. Gilbert. It's not about training necessarily the new person. Is Ms. Gilbert having enough time to be able to learn what this person does in 5 months? Now, she has already taken a lot of classes that are out there, but trying to get, because the issue is July 1st, she won't be here.
Hold on. My understanding was that you needed the time to train the new person, but it's more about training Miss Gilbert. I thought she was already supposed to be learning. her new position?
She's been learning a lot of it, and she's been taking a lot of classes, but for her to, and she's starting to do some additional stuff like payroll, but there are a lot of other things. The bulk of things that Ms. Kirby works on is all the finances, and we have a very extensive finance system. And that's the thing that I need for Ms. Kirby to learn so that July 1st, it's seamless. And she can transition right into that. Otherwise, we're going to have a situation where our old town clerk, not old, distinguished town clerk has left, and I've got someone into that position who's learning.
So if our assistant clerk is in training with the clerk, who's training the new hire? Seems like everyone's training, and does any work get done for 5 months?
It's not going to be easy, and there's going to be a lot to go into this, but the more that the assistant town clerk trains the new assistant town clerk, that's more things that are coming off her plate so that she can begin to do more stuff that the town clerk is currently doing.
Have we advertised to see if we have anybody that's already maybe experienced in this area to be coming in as the assistant so that they wouldn't require the training? And
I
Jennifer
can't advertise until I've got dollars for it.
But no, I mean, I'm talking about, so Jennifer is our assistant town clerk, right?
That's correct.
Okay. We could alleviate her having to train somebody, and she could focus solely on the town clerk job if we get somebody with experience to come in to her position that wouldn't need trained, right?
But whoever comes into her position probably is gonna need training as well. You can't just walk into a job without some type of training.
There's experience, just general experience in the type of job, but there's different experience in PACLET versus the type of job. And not a lot of people may have that new training on that CMS information that's out there. So it is not just a matter of having someone who already knows everything that she's currently doing now to just drop that person in there. The other thing to consider is the town of PACLET is not a wealthy town. In all of our positions are well under market rate. And so finding someone who is fully trained to be drop into that position, we probably won't have the dollars to be able to cover the cost of that person. We try to get really great employees, and we have been very fortunate in the employees that we currently have. But even the chief will tell you that our current starting position, our salary for a certified officer in the town of PACLET is around $43,000, $44,000, $45,000. And market rate right now, Inman right now is around $55,000. So we are already behind, and so being able to bring somebody in who's fully trained and ready to go and drop them into that spot, I hope we're able to do that. I am not betting on that.
Okay.
So basically, we just need to find the funding, right, to pay somebody to come in? Okay.
Can you give us, outside of moving the funds, can you give us another, like you say, another available option that we can just look over? Where else we might could, where else we might could use money from?
The only other place that you would potentially take funding from would be from the just general fund money.
Yeah.
But then that's the same thing that you would be doing for the police department too.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Can, because some of us are obviously very new, how do we acquire a copy of our budget? Like, I would like to see, one I can take, mark up, study.
It's currently online, but I'll also get you a copy of it.
I was gonna say, I would like one I can physically look at and
Absolutely.
make notations on.
And we are also coming into budget season for FY '26. That's typically approved by I'd like to try to get it done by May so that when you get into June, it's done, and you're not trying to get things done at the absolute last minute, because as of June 30th of this year, when you go until July 1st, if you have not passed a budget, I can't write any checks at all.
All right, I've lost track. Did we have a motion of some sort on the floor?
No.
No?
No.
Rescinded? All right. Well, I feel it's important that we get somebody to start training for Jennifer's position as soon as possible so that Jennifer can make a seamless transfer to Tony's position when the time comes. At this time, I think that you need to reevaluate where the funds is going to come from and make a presentation to us for the next meeting, and maybe in a timely manner that we can review it before the day of the meeting. So I make a motion that we table this until further adjustments is made.
I second.
All in favor? Any against? Item C, consider the first reading request from the Planning Commission to remove flexible review district from the zoning ordinance.
This is a recommendation that comes from the Planning Commission, and Ms. Lemons may have additional information or additional thoughts that I may not be fully conveying on here, but this was discussed and voted on by the Planning Commission to remove the FRD, or the Flexible Review District. If you remember, the proposed development up on 176, the Wilson Crossing, required a rezoning to the Flexible Review District. That project had a first reading but did not get to a second reading, and so this is removing that district, and it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, the reason for removing this is a precursor for preventing potential developments like that happening again.
Essentially, we cannot zone anything a planned development district off in the zoning ordinance on itself. That is something that the developer would have to approach us and ask us to be there. There's restrictions, like you have to have 25 acres of highland. Mark III would have fallen under a planned development district. But of course, they didn't take that option because they had the option of the flexible review district. And the issue became that we had no negotiating power with that flexible review district. And then on top of that, they had a commercial property that they pretty much wouldn't even tell us what they wanted to do with it. And the flexible review district was already showing the 300 or so houses or whatever, and then the commercial, with no kind of forethought, they weren't telling us, not explaining what they wanted to do there. That commercial district allows for multifamily that could have jammed, I can't even tell you, maybe you know, Patrick, I don't know how many houses that other commercial district could have potentially put in the multifamily, but it's a lot. It was probably like 400 or so multifamily plus, or even plus that units. Whereas if the developer could have approached us as a planned development district, we would have had more information about what that commercial zone was doing. We would have more input from the Planning Commission to potentially encourage that developer to put in like parks and things around that area that would benefit the community. It allows the town to have more negotiating power on a project that is that large. That was a very large project. Most of the discussion surrounded around the actual housing and subdivision plat, but there was more development that was, like I said, there was an entire huge commercial district that they also were wanting to input with no thoughts as to what that was going to be. So we would have been left in the dark and could have potentially turned around and not only had those 300 housing that they got approved for, they would have had the back door to go ahead and put the other ones in. And I don't even know if they would have been required to go to our fire district and all the other things like that subdivision plat was with the flexible review. So it's not, there's plenty of areas in the town that allow for housing and things like that. if it's going to be that large of a scale of a project, they really need to work closely with everyone and make sure we're sure of what it is that they're wanting to do.
So,
And
sorry to interrupt, just a point of clarity, you're wanting more ability to negotiate and plan with the developer?
Right, yes.
That's what the FRD is for?
No, the FRD allowed for them to take those properties and make 2 separate zonings of them. Whereas because they were wanting to do a development in that whole area right there, if they didn't have the flexible review district, the option would be for them to use the planned development district, which would have had them giving us information about what that commercial area was going to be as well.
I don't know if you're not communicating clearly your thoughts on that, or if you're completely wrong on that, but the flexible review district, which you want to remove, is a tool that council has for us to take part in the design and planning.
Yes.
And you want to remove that from us?
It is.
But you also want to take part in it.
The flexible review district was an allowance for them to have smaller lots. That was the negotiating power that it gave the developer, because their smallest lot size is the 10,000 square foot, which is what pretty much the Mill Hill is. So when we were deciding this stuff, we didn't want less than 10,000 square feet put in without it having discussion power. So that the flexible review district was suggested to us, because that would give them the ability to put larger lots.
Suggested by who?
Huh?
Suggested to us by who?
Patrick, I think, was one of, did you mention the flexible review district? Because we were discussing the ability to have larger lots and smaller lots.
The FRD doesn't give the developer any power to negotiate. It gives us options that we can discuss. It doesn't give them any leverage.
Okay, as our zoning administrator, so the flexible review district was intended to be so that there was an ability for the developer to use something that's smaller than our actual square footage lots.
Yeah, if we allow it.
Right?
Different.
Right, it's different.
Not necessarily smaller, it's, right now you've got our 10, our 20 districts, you know, and what the flexible review district enables, that they present a plan irregardless of the sizing of the lots.
Yeah, it could be bigger.
And then you can review that at that time on there. So it could be that, you know, you end up getting, you know, much larger lot sizes. You may get one very large lot and one smaller lot. I mean,
the whole idea is it's totally open for us to design and decide that. It doesn't mean they have to write.
We had no, is that true? Is
What's
it
that?
Entirely open for us to design it?
So they present a plan, and if you don't like that plan, that is an opportunity for the developer and the planning commission to figure out what makes sense. And so you can have some pushback and changes. I mean, that's, because at the end of the day, if it's not going to be approved, I mean, if council's not going to approve it, I mean...
Yeah.
But the planned development district also gives us that kind of negotiating power, yes?
The planned development district is more for different types of zoning, like commercial, residential, that sort of thing.
Which was what Mark III was presenting, correct?
What was that?
Which was what Mark III was presenting. They had multiple, they had commercial and they had residential.
So the flexible review district was just for the homes and the subdivision area. If you remember back on there was a request to change to C4 and the FRD.
Right, the request to do C4. See, that's what I'm saying, that they were requesting 2 separate zonings when that would have fit under a planned development district, where we could have been talking about what that commercial property was as well as what that housing was. So yes, the flexible review district gave us negotiating power for the housing, but it gave us no negotiating power for that commercial. So we're about to have this massive chunk of land developed on 176, and we have no idea what this other part is going, except the developer themselves is the same person. So why would we not work with that developer
are we
under a
having-
plan
are
that
we
would
having
cover
land
both
development?
commercial and housing?
What's the question?
Do you know something we don't know about this development? It is moving forward?
I am saying that
You just said we're
out,
about to have,
okay, so what,
look, I don't want to take, I don't want,
what
I don't
are
wanna
you
take a
asking?
tool out
It
of-
doesn't take away from being able to put residences out there. We still have plenty of residential districts.
I would like to keep all of council's negotiating power. I don't want to take a tool out of our toolbox. So I'm going to make a motion to kill this first reading.
I second.
All in favor?
1, 2, 3. Is there anybody else? I just have
Again.
3 who are voting to deny this. And
Well, you got to, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ask who's opposed, I guess.
yeah, all opposed, all opposed.
I'm going to abstain from voting. Me also.
so what? Did you see who's
well, it's going to go. People won't take the time to understand.
Okay. Mr. Cooper abstained?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brackens abstained? And so we had a motion by Mr. Williams, seconded by Ms. Palmer Green. And then voting against on there was Ms. Lemons and nobody else. Were you abstaining as well? Okay. So based on the rules of the town of Packlet, the people who were abstaining would be a motion in favor of the motion to deny. So at that point, it ends up being a 6-1 vote to deny this.
Any other comments, Ms. Walker,
No comment.
Ms. Green,
No, sir, no comment.
Mr. Williams?
I just want to welcome our new council members and our new mayor. Looking forward to bettering Packlet alongside each one of you, and regardless of differences, I hope that we can start fresh and recommit to cooperation, and, you know, Packlet's depending on us, so that's it.
Mr. Cooper? No comment. Mr. Bracken? Ms. Lemons?
I do have a comment. I just hope that we are aware that that land is still in probate and that we will eventually have another developer coming to develop that, and we will have no say if they develop commercial and decide to put in hundreds of multifamily. That's my comment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We adjourn.
I guess we're not going to